In a move that has sparked fierce debate and drawn a line in the sand between government policy and working-class resilience, the newly elected Labour government has announced that it will review the state pension age 3 years earlier than previously planned. This decision, unveiled by Work and Pensions Secretary Liz Kendall, has ignited not just political scrutiny, but an impassioned warning from Britain's largest railway workers' union. The Rail, Maritime and Transport Union, the RMT, has declared it will not sit quietly by as the government considers pushing the retirement age even higher. Instead, they are threatening demonstrations, mass protests, and coordinated industrial action. At the center of this storm is a single, vital question: when should hardworking people, those who've built this country, kept its trains running, its freight moving, its stations safe, be allowed to retire with dignity? The UK's current state pension age stands at 66. It's already scheduled to increase to 67 between 2026 and 2028. And under existing plans, that number could rise again, reaching 68 between 2044 and 2046. But now, that timeline is up for review and it could be accelerated. The reason? A growing financial storm. Ministers are increasingly alarmed by the fact that 45% of working-age people in the UK are not saving anything at all for retirement. Not a penny. In a cost-of-living crisis, many are simply too focused on putting food on the table and keeping a roof over their heads to think about a future that feels decades away. But to union leaders like Eddie Dempsey, General Secretary of the RMT, this government review doesn't just represent policy tinkering. It represents a betrayal. In a stark and powerful statement, Dempsey made the union's position crystal clear. If this government dares to move forward with raising the pension age again, he said, we intend to lead our movement onto the streets and will not hesitate to protest nationally and take coordinated direct action. And this isn't just bluster. These are workers on the front lines, railway workers who operate trains, fix tracks, maintain signal boxes and staff stations 24 hours a day. Their jobs are physically demanding, shift-based, and come with enormous safety responsibilities. These are not people sitting in climate-controlled offices with ergonomic chairs. These are people on their feet, working in all weather, day and night, year after year. For many, even reaching age 66 in good health is a struggle. Dempsey pulled no punches, declaring, the UK state pension is already one of the worst in the entire developed world. And he's not wrong. Compared to other advanced economies, Britain ranks near the bottom when it comes to public pension generosity. The OECD, the Office for Economic Cooperation and Development, has long documented that UK retirees receive far less government pension income than their counterparts in countries like France, Germany, or the Netherlands. Why? Because, as Dempsey puts it, this is the consequence of decades of governments transferring both our national and personal wealth to the super-rich. In other words, while billionaires and hedge funds flourish, ordinary workers are being told to work longer for less. Now, under UK law, the state pension age must be reviewed every 6 years. The last review concluded in 2023. The next was due in 2029. But now, the Labour government barely weeks into its term has brought that process forward. A third official assessment will be undertaken, looking at whether the scheduled rise to 68 remains appropriate or needs to be brought forward. This review won't be conducted in a vacuum. Ministers will be guided by 2 independent reports. They'll examine changes in life expectancy, economic sustainability, and so-called intergenerational fairness. But critics argue these are technical terms that hide the real human impact. Working-class people, especially those in physically demanding jobs, may be forced to keep grinding away while others retire in comfort. And for many, the numbers already don't add up. As it stands, the UK's triple lock guarantee ensures that the state pension rises each year by the highest of 3 figures average earnings growth, inflation, or 2.5%. It's a promise meant to protect pensioners' income in a volatile world. But it's an expensive promise. According to the Office for Budget Responsibility, maintaining the triple lock could cost an additional £15.5 billion a year by 2030. Damon Hopkins from financial consultancy Broadstone warned that a change is inevitable. With Britain's population aging rapidly and the cost of providing state pensions ballooning, some see pushing back the retirement age as a fiscal necessity. But for workers, it's a devastating prospect. A future where retirement slips further out of reach, even as wages stagnate and costs soar. Kirsty Anderson, a retirement policy specialist at Quilter, has called this review politically sensitive. She's right. Pension reform has ended political careers before. Raising the retirement age is not a minor adjustment, it affects millions of lives and the fundamental social contract between the government and the people. Policy experts are also cautioning against a one-size-fits-all approach. Lily Megson Harvey from My Pension Expert warns that blanket increases to the retirement age risk disproportionately impacting those who are already struggling to save enough and often rely more heavily on the state pension for financial security in retirement. In other words, the poorest will suffer the most. And therein lies the heart of the issue. Retirement shouldn't be a privilege for the few, it should be a right for all. A reward for decades of hard work, sacrifice, and service. But for millions of working-class people in Britain today, that right feels increasingly under threat. Liz Kendall has defended the review, framing it as part of a broader strategy to fix the broken pensions system. She acknowledges the problem: many workers are more concerned about putting food on the table and keeping a roof over their heads than saving for a retirement that seems a long way away. To address this, she's established a new pensions task force, led by Labour peer Baroness Drake. Its mission is to tackle the barriers that stop people from saving enough for later life. But many remain unconvinced. They fear that instead of reforming pensions to make them fairer and more generous, the government will simply ask workers to carry the burden for longer. To work more years for the same, or even less, in return. The review will delve into a range of complex issues. How has life expectancy changed since the last review? Are people living longer, and if so, in good health or poor health? How sustainable is the current state pension promise over the next 20, 30, or 40 years? How do changes in demographics and the tax base affect future funding? But for union leaders like Eddie Dempsey, the message is simple: enough is enough. The working class must not be made to pay for the mistakes of successive governments. They've already borne the brunt of austerity, wage stagnation, job insecurity, and a broken housing market. They must not now be punished again by being told they need to work into their 70s before they can finally rest. And so, the battle lines are being drawn. The next few months could determine not just the future of pension policy, but the very shape of retirement in Britain. Will it remain a fundamental part of our social contract, a promise that hard work will one day be rewarded with rest? Or will it become a luxury, available only to those who can afford private savings and early exits? For now, the review is only just beginning. But already, the stakes couldn't be higher. For railway workers. For nurses. For construction workers. For retail staff. For millions of ordinary people who have spent their lives working hard and hoping for a fair retirement. They are watching. Waiting.